Hey, so Dan here. I've never made a cooking video, but I decided that I'm gonna make one today. And no better dish to do so than what I'm making, which is lengua, beef tongue. I think normally eat a lot of lengua tacos, so it's very common in Mexican cooking. Where I'm from in Venezuela, I had my grandma cook this dish for me several times. We normally did it over rice with sauce, which is kind of what I was craving 2 days ago, what prompted me to want to make this. So really simple. I have some beef stock going on back there. I'm gonna quarter an onion and throw it in there just for more flavor. I'm gonna take a whole what the fuck do you call these?
Garlic.
Yeah, no, I know it's garlic. I just meant a whole bulb of garlic. And I don't really go too crazy with this, as in like separating it. I'm just gonna throw it like this. I want it for flavor in there, so I'm just gonna go throw this in there. And I'm also gonna throw some bay leaf in there. Just like 4 or 5 of those bad boys in there. And I'm gonna throw some whole black peppercorn for a little spiciness in there as well. Let's say that's about 10 of them. I think that's more than plenty. So I already have that reducing in there. So this is a beef tongue right here. You know, kind of gnarly looking if you ask me, but it's a beautiful piece of meat. It's very, very delicious. It's very beefy. I don't think it differs too much from beef flavor. I don't know why people don't eat it more. It's very surprising to me. I think part of the reason why I want to make this video and upload it and share it with my friends on Facebook is that I think more people should eat it because it's freaking delicious. One thing is that this side here looks kind of gnarly, kind of weird. There's some fat in there, and there's also this big chunk up here that seems like it has a different texture to it. Since I'm gonna quarter it all and smother it in sauce, I'm really not gonna do anything to it. I'm not gonna trim that out. I'm just gonna literally drop this whole freaking thing in there and let it cook. So let's just put this bad boy in here. I think I'm gonna have to add a little more water. Maybe not. Yeah, maybe a little bit of water. So we're just gonna let it cook in there. Takes a long time. I don't want a very, very hard boil. I'm gonna have it like a soft rolling boil, and I'm gonna cook it in there for about 3.5 hours. I read somewhere that we're talking 50 minutes per kilo of tongue. So you can just wait it out and 50 minutes per kilo. And that should make it really nice and tender. And then I'll show you what's gonna happen after. I'm gonna add some more water in here just to make sure the tongue is fully covered. And yeah, we'll see what's next. All right, we're back here. So the tongue cooked for 3.5 hours exactly. I pinched it with this guy, small knife, right on the tip of the tongue, which is usually the part that takes longer to get a little softer. And it was already, soft enough. So I took it out, I let it cool a little bit so that I could handle it, because if not, peeling it will burn your fingers. So now that it's actually, I can touch it without burning myself, I can start getting this membrane off, because you definitely don't want to eat that. That's pretty tough to eat. The good thing is that after you've cooked it for, in this case 3.5 hours, after you've cooked it enough, this thing just comes out quite easily. You definitely want to eat this. This is like rubber. See how easy? It almost comes off like a sock. See, you don't want to eat that. See how rubbery that is? I can't even break it, It doesn't even, it's rubber basically, it's leather. So you're not gonna want to eat that. So you toss that out. all this white stuff here, you don't want any of that, you know. Boom. I think that's about it. None of that left in there. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna let this guy cool. So the stock here has been reducing a little more after I took it out. So I want a lot of flavor in that stock, because I'm gonna use that stock to flavor my sauce, my tomato sauce as well, that I'm gonna eat the tongue with. So I'm gonna get this guy back in here, even though it's already fully cooked. I'm gonna turn this off, and I'm just gonna let it cool in there until I can actually get the whole thing in the cooler. So I'm gonna leave it in there in the cooler overnight, and then tomorrow I'm gonna slice it up, and then I'm gonna finish the dish. So we'll come back to that later on. Hey, so we're back, day 2 of lengua and salsa. So I'm gonna show you quickly what I got here. I've already prepped all the vegetables and the meat. I cut the tongue in large chunks. It's kind of a really rough dice. I want to say maybe like between half an inch and an inch thick. I have some tomatoes. This is canned tomatoes. These are Italian San Marzano tomatoes. They're really tasty. I got some capers and green olives. Got some garlic, a lot of garlic, cilantro. I got some peppers, red peppers and orange peppers. I got a blend of red onions and white onions, and I have some scallion. I have my stock that we cooked the tongue in. I actually warmed it up today, and I added some of the stalks of the cilantro, so I could add some other layers of flavor. I have my white rice here already good to go. I'm actually gonna make a video of my white rice technique, I guess, that I learned from my grandmother and from other experiences. I have some plantains, sweet plantains. I have them warm in there. So, all right, let's do this. I have this pan already warm. I'm gonna add some olive oil. Let's do a little more. I'm gonna first saute my garlic. All right. I'm actually not gonna cook these vegetables a lot. I like having some crunch in my sauce, in my stew. And though it's not a stew, it's kind of stewy because it's saucy. So I'm just gonna cook this a little bit. I'm gonna throw these guys in here too. Alright, so I'm going to give that a couple seconds. Increase the heat. I had it in like medium-low heat just to get the pan hot. I'm increasing that to a little above medium heat. I'm gonna then hit this pan with some white wine to do a little deglazing. I think the wine is going to add some sweetness. It's going to add some very small amount of acidity, which is something I'm seeking. I have the acidity and the brininess from the capers and the green olives, which is something I'm looking for. There's one ingredient that I actually wanted to put in this that I just realized I didn't have, which is raisins, black raisins. I mean, when I cook, I like to find, a balance between acidity and sweetness and, depth, complexity, freshness, so I'm definitely looking for that in this dish as well. But unfortunately, no black raisins. Oh, this could work. Some dates. Oh yeah, totally. Roxanna is making good suggestions here. So, all right, so we got that. I'm gonna hit this with some wine. I'm killing Roxy in this kitchen today because I was cutting some Scotch bonnet peppers, and I always make her either cough or sneeze when that happens.
Like your grandma.
Like
your grandma.
Like my grandma, yeah. So let's cook some of that alcohol off and reduce that a little bit. So, like I said before, I'm actually not gonna cook the vegetables a lot. This I want to cook. I don't want that kind of raw garlic flavor in this. So this is gonna cook a little longer. But the rest of the vegetables, especially onions, I love raw onions. I love red raw onions. So if the onion is soggy and kind of sweet, you know, it's not for me. I kind of like that crunch. So, I mean, you can also cook it to your own kind of taste, but that's how I do it. So, I think that's now I have my nose running as well. So, let's hit this. All right. Give that guy a little mix. Alright. I'm actually going to go ahead and increase the heat even more so that I can caramelize all this good stuff in here. At this point, I'm going to season. I haven't introduced salt at all in this dish. The stock doesn't have any salt. The meat doesn't have any salt. So I'm going to start seasoning now. A good bit of salt in there. Should be good for now. Good bit of color and vibrancy in there. I love. So I'm going to go with the meat now. You can see this is a good amount. So I'm going to be eating, we're going to be eating this for a couple of days. It's a little heavy for my weak left hand. So I'm just going to go with the right hand. All right. Unfortunately, this is my biggest saute pan, and my burners are not big enough to, you know, kind of get a lot of heat in the center, and on the outside you don't get as much heat, so not ideal, but you know, screw it. That's gotta work with what you have. So this meat was, I want to say, kind of a little coldish, kind of room temperature, so I'm going to give it a second there to saute a little bit. And next, I'm going to add a little bit of my stock here. I'm going to do something that is a little bit of I don't want to say like an improvisation, but it's something that I'm trying out today. Normally I would have cooked this tomato sauce, cook it down and make it, you know, really thick and sweet and robust. Today, since I have this delicious tasting tomatoes, I'm going to do the complete opposite. I'm going to give the dish a lot of depth through the stock that has cooked, you know, for 3.5 hours with the tongue, and then it also continued reducing, and then I added the cilantro to give it some kind of different kind of flavor to it. So I'm going to introduce the depth to the dish with the stock, and then the tomatoes I'm not going to cook very much, so I get some of that fresher tomato flavor. So let's get some of that stock in there. This stock is warm, by the way, so I'm not cooling down, or almost like when you make risotto. You don't want to have your stock cold, because then you're basically stopping the cooking process by adding cold stock to your dish. So I think that's Do another more. And actually, let me use a different spoon for this. Now I'm gonna add some of these tomatoes. These tomatoes were whole, so I kind of crushed them with my hand. I'm okay with the chunkiness. I'm actually kind of looking for that chunkiness. I don't want any, I don't need it to be fine, you know, and elegant. This is not an elegant dish. This is a very homey, rustic dish. Where, all right, so I'm actually just gonna cook these down for a little bit, not very long. Again, I don't want to lose some of the crunchiness of the vegetables, so I'm gonna give it a few minutes. I'm gonna do a taste test. I'm gonna adjust my seasoning, and then I'm gonna show you how I plate this, which is, you know, really, really exciting. I'm super hungry, so I'm gonna be eating a good bit of this in a few minutes here. So I'll be back with the plating. All right, so we're now gonna serve this dish. And it's about time because I'm freaking hungry. So white rice. I'm gonna eat like a pig, so don't judge me. I'm actually mostly eating once a day. So about a pound of rice. No, that's too much. That's fine. All right, so got the rice. Then we're gonna pour this stuff on top. So I ended up adding the dates. So these are some Publix dates. I would have rather used raisins, but the dates will do for now. All right. Then you always have to have some scallion on top. I love scallions. I love anything that tastes like a raw onion, so I do a lot of that. And then a solid amount of cilantro. And if you don't like cilantro, then I won't judge you, even though I am judging you silently. And last but not least, I'm gonna do my plantains here that got a little overcharred. I mean, they caramelize quite quickly, so they gotta wait for me a little bit, but caramelization is flavor, so I'm okay with that. And that, my friends, oh, right, one is gone. That, my friends, is lengua and salsa. I did make Scotch bonnet pepper with a little bit leftover tomato I had, and some garlic, some lemon. So I will taste this first. I mean, I tasted it already, but I'm gonna taste it first. And I'm gonna probably add some of this too for some heat. So thank you for watching, and I will be making a video of my rice recipe soon. And be good.